Welcome everyone to a very special CIRF weekend report. I'm Chris McCleary, nationaldreamcenter.com, where we are looking for the biggest collective influence that might be affecting the way you think, feel, and behave. And then we describe how to surf those energies. But in this report, not only are we doing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or at least we're attempting to, we are seeing something in the dreams, and so we're going to have an experiment over this weekend. I'm phenomenally excited to see what comes of that, so hang on. And then at the very end of this segment of this video, I'm going to describe a new word. It's kind of a secret. It's about dreams, so if you're really into dreams, you're really going to want to pay attention to the end. All right, let's get started. It's really incredible amount of stuff happening here, especially as we get into the DreamBot, but we're going to start with the astrology first. Poor Mercury, still getting these aspects, still technically in a opposition with Neptune, so things tend to feel dreamy. Yeah, you've got the insights and creativity, but you tend to get lost, and those thoughts get lost in those thinking and the thoughts in the fantasies. Okay, and then you have a square and a half over to Uranus, which is all about breakdown, breakthrough, change monster, Uranus, and then Mars, which is the fighter. That's a square and a half as well. These are not as significant as squares, but they are not harmonious, if you will. These are not harmonious aspects. Mars is kind of invigorating, I'm right, beating your chest kind of a thing, kind of a war hero, if you will. And so there's a little bit of conflict with Mercury. It's going to be maybe hard to communicate. This is more today, and then as Mercury progresses on towards Libra, but I mean, it's not going to get anywhere close to Libra, but my point is it's going to get out of these aspects, and when it does, it's going to make a trine over to Pluto, and that's going to be very beneficial, especially as it's conjunct with the Sun. They're both making that trine, and it's exaggerating this ability to communicate with yourself, to have good insight with the inner side of you, and it's even healing. And since we're talking about healing now, let's go ahead and talk about Mars. Is already in a, let's see, it would be a sextile with Chiron. I don't have Chiron up here, but it's where the cursor is right now, and it's over in Aries. But they're making a sextile, and that's still going to be there for the weekend, and that's the healing, the wounded healer. And so, you know, there's pain there. The Mars gives you the impetus to look at this pain and be willing to introspect on it, and then Chiron, especially in Aries and that fire, gives you unusual or unexpected healing for that pain. So this is a very healing time. Now, the one thing that we have to work into this is the relationships. So I know this all probably sounds kind of confusing. Oh, by the way, we have numerology, which on the 14th is you're sociable, but you need your space, and it's can kind of be unfocused. 15, we bring in the 15th, so that would be Saturday. We're bringing in the synthesis of matter and spirit, and you have more power and cooperation, so more willingness to be sociable. And then on the 16th, it moves right into what we just talked about with the Mercury trine Pluto, which is introspection, very wise, and family. And I want to take that as the perfect segue to the DreamBot run. DreamBot, remember, this is the collective dreams, and this is what is showing up. Don't read this. It's all very confusing. I'm going to walk you through it. Don't try to figure out this horribly messy product I have here. This is the health of the collective unconscious. Okay, it's very chaotic right now. And keep in mind that Hurricane Florence is coming into the East Coast as of today, very early on. As soon as I press send here, it's probably happening as I talk. But the collective dreams, we're seeing this leading up to Florence touchdown, okay? And this matters because we call it day residue. When you see the news or when you see sports or some big event reoccurring in the dreams after the event, then that's called day residue. But it doesn't mean that it's not influencing us. It's still influencing us because the mind is infatuated with that. In fact, we can show what, whether or not the news is stronger than the astrology, for example. And that's why I'm loving this experiment this weekend. And here's the experiment that I want to try is, can we predict the severity of the hurricane based on the dreams? Now, these dreams are not precognitive. They're more day residue. And for dream jargon, we're talking about precognitive means that you're dreaming about something in advance and you have no idea what that was in advance. Day residue is dreaming about it after you saw it. Well, the news has been talking about it all week, so it's not precognitive. This is more day residue because it's happening after the news people are talking about it. But we can look at the severity of this emotional content and guess at the severity of what's actually going to happen in Florence. So I'm going to be very, very interested and curious as to how this correlates. And we do this with the orange arrows. So the hurricane, as I see it in the dreams, shows up in the orange arrows, which are view, spinning, shift, takes, kick, landing, and elevator. Okay, don't read anything else in there. Don't confuse yourself. So just for the hurricane, it doesn't look like it's extremely chaotic. It doesn't look like it's your typical hurricane. If I had to guess, and I'm not an expert on predicting severities, although as we get into the last segment, we tend to see that in the dreams, in real life tends to be, at least in the past data points, around 10% of the severity of what you see it in the dreams. So if the dreams aren't all that severe, can we guess that Florence may not be quite as severe as we thought? Okay, I don't know. I'm not saying it will be. I'm just guessing. This is just a total guess, and I'll explain why I'm guessing at the very end with this little special segment that we have at the very end. Okay, so that's my guess, and let's move on to the other sections here. The red arrows are the relationships. Okay, completely separate from the hurricane. Now we've got relationships. Fiance at the very top, dating, childhood, adult, old, and couple. These are the words in the dreams that relate to relationships. And notice they're all in the top half of the run. So it's very significant. Relationships are a big deal. Today, 14th and 15th and 16th. Okay, and then the reason why I have this squared, this linguistic set, is because this sounds like me. Fiance. My fiance has been appearing in this DreamBot run for the last week, I think. And we've been noticing that and chuckling about it. But she's coming to see me and she's bringing her bike. So spinning. So these dreams do have double meaning, and it's very personal for me because I'm going to see her personally. And I'm excited. Next is the blue arrows. Okay, so the blue arrows are, so far what we have is the hurricane and the orange arrows. We have the red with the relationships. So we have chaotic relationships, if this is the influence, chaotic relationships. And now the blue arrows tell us that in that chaos, we're going to heal. So let's read off the blue arrows. Standing, chest, coming from the heart, coming from the heart. Journaling, journaling is a form of, writing your inner introspection. Still, remaining still. Process, in the world of counseling, the word process means we're processing our emotions. We're working on this. And then the word healing, directly, healing and trying. We're trying to work this out, and shows. Now that may not be appropriate for that grouping, but anyway, you can clearly see that we have those three distinct memes in this dream run. Very confusing. Number one, we've got the hurricane, but that can influence you. So that chaos of the hurricane, that fear of the news of the hurricane can affect your life, can affect your relationships, and that inner tension can come out into how you talk to other people. So be aware of that. So let me break it down just so everyone's clear. Hurricane and chaos. We have relationships. Okay, so chaos in the relationships, but the blue arrows show healing. So let that chaos take place, but know that there's a reason, or a rhyme and a reason behind all that, and there's healing at the very end of that. All right, this is the end of the influence part. Hang on, because we're going to talk about how to surf that, and then I'm going to give Matt that little special surprise at the very end. Okay, let's do it. All right, if you like this idea with knowing what the collective influence is and knowing how to surf those, be sure that you subscribe and click the bell so that you get notified of future reports. Now we talk about how to surf these influences. And the whole point here is not to maybe get into scuffles, but just notice how this tension around the world that's happening right now might be affecting the way that you feel and the way that you behave with others and how you relate to others. But don't be so resistant to these scuffles. I'm not asking you to get into scuffles, okay? So notice that how this weekend, if you do get in any sort of conflict or disagreement, that it's going to naturally, with the Chiron aspect and Mars, naturally bring you out of that, not just out of the scuffle and not just out of the conflict, but deepen bonding and healing, further healing and deepening in that relationship. Okay, that's kind of my whole point, is that you're not necessarily doing something wrong by finding yourself inside of a scuffle. So don't just quickly just say, everything's fine and move on. Really spend some time in that that disagreement, and if you can, get out of yourself and understand the other person, where they're coming from. Really try to honestly understand, and what you'll see is the de-escalation happens almost immediately. And not that you have to accept everything that they're saying and their viewpoints, but if you understand it and you communicate that you're understanding their viewpoint, then that could be enough to just bring everything down, and then they might in turn be willing to understand your viewpoint, and then hopefully you're meeting each other somewhere in the middle. All right, and that's what our picture is all about. And one thing that I didn't mention in the astrology was the square between moon and sun. That was one thing I wanted to talk about and I forgot. That's going to happen on Saturday and Sunday, and that's very conflicted because the sun is in a earth sign, Virgo, and the moon is in a fire sign in Sagittarius, and they're 90 degrees out. They don't see eye to eye at all, and they have two different goals, and so you might feel a little bit interconflicted. That goes in with this little scuffle thing. The conflict inside of you is has a high chance of coming out, but but let that out. Don't repress these inner conflicts. And if it produces a scuffle, know that it's going to produce healing afterwards. If you got pure intentions in there, don't repress these little scuffles today. All right, now we get into the little surprise, and what I wanted to talk about was the word called dream forecasting. And I've always considered it, ever since I've been a part of the National Dream Center, I've coined this term dream forecasting. All the way back in 2014, we did a project called Project August, and you can Google this. It was phenomenally successful in that we had dreamers around the world, and we were predicting the future. In this case, August 2014, we were predicting the future headlines through dreams. And we did this with the DreamBot, and we did this with intentional dreaming, and the dream forecaster, that was me. I was pulling out material from the dreams. I was looking at memes. I was looking at the DreamBot, and we were looking at direct linguistics approaches, kind of like what I put up at the very top of today's run with the fiancé. That's a linguistic set. And we were predicting the future. We had 119 headlines, predictive headlines, and those were documented ahead of time and produced. And 101 of those came true. So 101 out of 119 is phenomenally successful. The score rate, the accuracy rate was 4 out of 5. So not perfect. So for an example, a 4 out of a 5, this was an actual headline, was an outbreak claims 1,200 lives in eastern Montana. That was an actual headline, predictive headline. And that prediction, I think, was created in the middle of May 2014 for August 2014, sorry. Then when August actually happened, the actual headline was Ebola, which is an outbreak. Ebola claims 1,200 lives. But it wasn't in eastern Montana. It was in Africa somewhere, like Sri Lanka. I'm not really sure where it was from. I forget. But the point is, it was spot on with the outbreak, spot on with the number of people that it took out, but it was completely off on the location. That is, 4 out of 5-ish around there on that accuracy. So anyway, dream forecasting is a real thing, and I'm opening up the umbrella for dream forecasting in these CIRF reports. So in a way, we're seeing whether or not the astrology is coming through in the dreams. We're also seeing whether or not news articles and sports and upcoming events are coming into the dreams. And if we are, that's an influence. Why is this an influence? Because where the mind is, actions follow. And that's so important of why we do need to be farming out the collective unconscious and seeing what the health is at any time. We have this CIRF report that was based on Friday's DreamBot run. I do the DreamBot run every single day, so we do need to get some updates of the health of the collective unconscious, and you do that over at nationaldreamcenter.com, and you look for the DreamBot runs, and it'll send you straight to the latest list of DreamBot runs in chronological order. All right, that's all I have. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your likes and shares and subscriptions and talking about this to other people and sending them over here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is wonderful to see this support. And let us know how we can do this even better and what you need to see. But other than that, have a wonderful weekend. We're the National Dream Center, healing the collective psyche, one mind at a time. Thank you.